Hey everybody, how's it going? It's Annette the Peacemaker, and we are live today at the Yang Gang Report Live on Facebook, and then also on my YouTube channel, Annette the Peacemaker. And I don't know where we might be. We'll probably share this in other places after we are done with the live stream, so then everybody can share wherever they'd like. But today, I am here with my Yang Gang sister, Faye the Lone Star Warrior, and she has secured 2 special guests, and she knows them and knows their story way better than I do. So I am going to let Faye take over from there, and then we'll just go on. You can introduce our guests.
All right. So we have today a couple of movers and shakers from the leyline.gg community. Yeah, a nice moving and shaking.
Both started moving and shaking as soon as you said it. As if that was planned, but it wasn't.
So Jeremy Dela Rosa, I've already met through the Yang Gang Roundtable. We podcast together the other day, and we were introduced to Jeremy through Ariel, who a lot of people who watch this stream know. He's from Yang Gang, so Ariel Bakshenda. And apparently you guys have been busy creating something over there that is what you want to call the new economy of altruism.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's correct.
That has a beautiful ring to it. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what leyline.gg is?
Yes, absolutely. And first off, thank you both so much for having us on. We really appreciate it to have this conversation with you guys. And hopefully it's going to be fun and interesting. So I'm going to let Cody introduce himself as well. But to just give a very quick summary of my background. Hey, Ariel. Good to see you. So yeah, I've spent about 20 years in the tech industry, and the last 10 years were at Blizzard Entertainment. So it's one of the larger game publishers on the planet, probably like 4th or 5th, I think. So over there, I spent a bunch of time doing different senior management roles, including product management and helping to build the Battle.net platform, helped launch about 7 AAA games. So Overwatch, Hearthstone, World of Warcraft expansions, Hearthstone, Heroes of the Storm, and a few others. Moved out to Paris to work out of a European office, and there did a lot of digital marketing, publishing, data analysis, and data science. Then after 3 years, I came back to California to work on the esports department. So helping to launch the Overwatch League and doing a lot of international operations. So I had a lot of different experiences in the games industry, and I was concerned that not enough of it's like going back to people on planet. Like it's record high revenue, record high engagement. And unfortunately, less than 1% of this industry is actually giving back to people on planet. So I decided to resign in August and launch a nonprofit org called Leyline. And so the idea behind Leyline is right now it is hard to do good in the world. You have to either spend money or spend your time or leverage your networks. And it's hard to get like direct feedback on the impact that you had. So we want to make it easy, fun, and profitable to do good in the real world. And when we talk about doing good, it could be any number of activities. Like one, at the individual wellness side, are you taking care of yourself? Because how do you help others if like you're not okay yourself? Right. So things like, exercising on a daily basis, sleeping properly, practicing mindfulness. On the local level and community level, being able to contribute and volunteer at your local soup kitchen or beach cleaning or donating blood to the Red Cross. And at a global level, all these individuals can contribute together by just donating their computing power to accelerate, cancer research and climate change research and COVID research. So there's all these different things that you can do in the world, but instead of making you sacrifice and pay for it, we just want to make it easy, and then you gain value. We just gamify good. Because all of our background is really coming in from the video game industry. And so we're applying all of those like intrinsic motivators to incentivize, helping people and helping the planet. And then on top of that, we're going to add tons more value where you can actually, earn a passive income through our prize pool, which will have gift cards and Bitcoin gift cards and NFTs and crypto. So we can talk about that later. So that's the concept. And I'll pass it over to Cody because Cody is an amazing individual too. So I want to give him a chance.
So Cody, what is your position with Leyline right now?
Hey, yeah. So I help tell the story of it. I'm here. That's what my background is if you have Annette the Peacemaker and Faye the Lone Star Warrior, I'm going, I want to have a cool something. So I would say I'm Cody the storyteller. That's what I like to do. That's what I would call myself. From just the youngest age, always writing books, writing stories. I was at sleepovers with cousins. I'd be the one telling the ghost stories, making it up on the fly, right, at night. And so always had a passion for that and finding many different outlets for that through multimedia. And so my career took me into working in news and broadcast television, as well as doing a lot of freelance video production of many different sorts and so forth. And as Jeremy said, we have a lot of us that work out of the video game industry. That's where we came from. Well, I played a lot of video games, but I never worked in the industry actually. So I came more from a broadcast journalism, multimedia type of background. And I decided, you know what? I am a little burnt out on this. This world is tough. It's really cutthroat. We need journalists. We need to know the stories of things going on in the world. But there were some moments where I would get to a crime scene and feel like I was on the wrong side of the caution tape. Like I wanted to get over there and start doing something more positive and proactive, as opposed to what I personally felt was more like being a leech, sucking the misery and the heartache to go and spread it and have a top news story. Like literally in the newsroom, they'd be like, guys, it's great. We got a 10-car pileup on the freeway. I'm like, why is that great? Well, we didn't have a top story, but now we do. And it's like, we should not be getting excited about this. This is sad. So, yes, like I said, we need journalists, and hats off to those who can kind of compartmentalize. They go home and be like, I'm done. I'm now this person. I'm not the reporter. I would get home and I'd feel like still really wound up. Like I just saw something terrible, literally my job was to record a dad finding out his kids just died. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that. And I'm just like, I want to do something better. And so I started moving into teaching. And so outside of Leyline, I teach media arts. So I get to bring what my talents and passions and everything to a classroom setting and get to hopefully have proactive impact in people's lives. But that is a tough world. And maybe sometimes you do see some of those big, like, oh my gosh, I did affect this individual's life. Or some of those you might not find out for 20 years, right? Mr. Holland's Opus type of moments where all these kids come back and like, you totally made my life different, which would be awesome. Open for. But when a friend of mine who knew Jeremy and introduced me to Jeremy and what Leyline's doing, and he explained it to me, I just said, I've got to be a part of this. I want to be a part of telling this story, the story of how Leyline is making a difference and recruiting people who may never have had those resources to support science and scientific research passively with their computer going, look, I want us to be a part of solutions, but I don't know how. I just keep hearing problems. There's thousands of problems and I don't even know where to begin. And so Leyline's given a really cool place to begin with that in a fun, engaging, rewarding way. So that's
okay.
Yeah.
So I know a little bit more about Leyline than Annette does because I had this first podcasting experience with Jeremy where he invited us to join is it called the beta?
Yeah, we're in alpha test right now. Beta soon.
We're not even at beta.
Not even at beta yet.
Okay, so in the meantime, so I've been learning a little bit more about the community and what you guys are trying to do by physically, being active and being one of the participants. So the last time we spoke, it seemed to be that a lot of things were not ready to be talked about. So I want to be careful not to, talk about anything that you're not ready to actually go public with. So What can we talk about? What can we do to explain how things work?
Yeah, I think part of what we just the main thing that we have to be careful about was because we're a 501c3 nonprofit, we just have to make sure there's a very clear line between not actively supporting any particular political affiliation. So that's like kind of the main area we want to make sure we're kind of treading carefully because we just don't want to get in trouble. But the other component is that we are hyper transparent or radically transparent. So all of our all hands meetings, we post onto YouTube and we share with our community Q&As, and we just kind of reveal everything because we're an open knowledge project as well as open source. So the whole point of it is we want to make knowledge free. So all this professional experience and even just our strategy and how we're going to plan to build a product is actually publicly available for people to inspect. And the reason why that's important is that transparency is the key to building trust and holding people accountable. So we're trying to, help and be part of this movement towards decentralization and empower people to participate in building products to help with saying this is the right way to have governance in an organization. And, I think we really want to change the way that businesses operate because there's way too much opaqueness. Is it opaqueness or opacity? I don't know.
In graphic design terms.
Yeah, there's just too much opacity in which creates room for corruption and also just bad decision making. So anyway, that's just a bit about our transparency.
Regardless of the transparency issue, the question is, first of all, what shape do you take? So right now you exist as a website and you also exist as a Discord server. And in order to participate, are you asking for more participation at the moment?
Yeah. So, the way we're building it is that it'll be a platform accessible across all devices, but, we're going piece by piece. So right now it's mainly on the website at leyline.gg where you can, participate. And it's basically, picking your impact activity, doing it, and then using Leyline points to claim your prizes, like very, very basic. And that's where we're layering on more and more functionality day by day. So we deploy features every single day where we start to adding these gamification elements like achievements and leaderboards and competitions and events and prizes.
So it basically works very similar to things like the old time, would be like My Rewards or or something like Google Rewards. It's a reward program where the game is every day you do good things, do good deeds, and these are defined as things that are, for example, something personal like getting enough sleep or getting enough exercise today. Those are two of the personal tasks that you can, check in every day for. And then the other major projects that you have signed on so far are, as Cody mentioned, donating your computer time for science.
That's correct. So one of our partners is an open source platform called Boink, and they're actually based out of UC Berkeley. It was kind of just like,
right on.
Dance.
And that's the key. We are essentially this loyalty program for nonprofits and doing good. So we basically talk to these nonprofits and say, hey, you're struggling with user acquisition and engagement and retention. Because these people are trying to have impact. They're not thinking about how do we gamify this experience and make it super fun. So we out for that and just say, hey, you know what? We're not going to charge you anything. We're just going to throw thousands of users your way and incentivize the shit out of them. Incentivize the crap out of them. I don't know if I can curse here.
Sure you can. Any place,
right.
Yeah,
we're live, right? So, and so, it basically allows them to cut down their operational overhead for all this marketing, and they can allocate their dollars towards having real positive impact through their programs. That became a really nice match when we worked with Boink as our first subject. Because initially when we started, it was COVID hit hardcore. We're like, okay, we need to help find solutions for COVID. Here's an amazing open source project that's crunching data to accelerate research for these scientists. And then we realized, this could expand to everything. We can not just supercharge Boink, we could supercharge the Red Cross, we could supercharge Habitat for Humanity and One Tree Planted. So the key is that we're this economy. We're building this economy of Leyline points that really just represents the good you've done in the world. And, we're not going to allow people to just buy it because we want to demonstrate that this is actually proven good that you've taken active effort to make happen in the real world, versus you just being a rich person saying, I'm going to buy 1 million ley line points. And all of a sudden I'm like a virtue signaling that I'm a hero. Like, fuck that. So we're trying to give this like equal opportunity for people that start at zero, where they can just start to contribute and then rack up a value and cash out. So anyway, that's the hope. That's the plan.
I've already joined, and I finally figured out how to do the first few steps, and it's still a little complicated, I have to say.
I know.
Okay, but I believe the process is going to get easier.
Yeah.
But then once you get into it, I'm starting to see my points grow, and now I'm at the point where I'm about to maybe get a reward. So I'm getting real excited, right? The reward is coming, my first reward. So once I get some of the rewards that are available to us seem to be things like gift cards primarily, and some of them are like maybe, am I allowed to say, or is
sure?
Totally.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
okay.
please.
So, like for example, you can like do an Amazon gift card, or you can do a gaming gift card from your old company where you used to work, Blizzard, and you can maybe EA or some of the other big names that you've partnered up with, and it seems like you have a lot of really good partners.
That's correct.
But I also noticed that one that's very interesting is the crypto. Is that you are allowing people to get a gift card for Bitcoin or Ethereum.
Yes, that is actually that's kind of a key strategy, because one of our master goals in the long term is we need to eradicate poverty. Like, this is just silly that we are allowing poverty to exist when we have like $20 trillion of GDP circling the planet. And to me, one pathway is that we're going to create this sustainable engine of value and abundance through this platform. Because blockchain and crypto really enable us to do that. So what we want to do is take all the profit that we get and then throw it into the prize pool, and a portion of that is going to be Bitcoin gift cards. So this is very powerful, because you can imagine a $25 Bitcoin gift card. Bitcoin is accessible all over the planet. There's no intermediaries. You can transact to anybody on, anywhere in the world with no remittance fees. It can convert into local fiat currency in any nation that you. So it's such a super effective way to distribute cash to people that are in need. So a $25 Bitcoin gift card is already a year's salary for somebody in a developing nation. And that is game changing, where, what they have to do is like have a phone and internet and like literally say, I volunteered and I get verified and they get ley line points, and now they transform their life.
Yeah, you can run Boink on an Android phone or tablet or an old one. Like, I have this really old Android tablet and I ran Boink on it for quite a while on it, and I just put on a different computer so it'd go a little bit faster. But I'm like, check this out, this is actually running on this old tablet. And yeah, it was funny if you had that $25 Bitcoin card a couple weeks ago, it'd be worth a whole lot more this week. Bitcoin has been shooting up. So
that is correct. And,
currently, during the alpha, it seems that the decision so far has been to give people credit for the number of hours that they contribute, no matter what kind of device you use.
Yes.
So even if you're using a very slow computer somewhere in, sub-Saharan Africa or someplace, and that's all you have, this is the device you have. If you join this program, and it's an international program, an international community, you can still achieve the same reward, even though your computer doesn't run as quickly as run as much software as quickly.
Level that playing field for everybody with whatever devices that they have. So if you have like a quad core processor, each core actually is running it. So it's one computer with 4 cores. You're actually essentially clocking 4 times as much. So imagine if you have access to a whole bunch of computers, rich folks with, a big bank of computers, and you're just like, I'm just going to clock all these ley line points and just dominate that market. Well, we set the cap at an hourly amount. So the most any individual can do is 24 hours in a day. Now, if you're running a stronger processor, great. That means you are contributing more than 24 hours worth of processing for this network computing. However, in that day, you might put in 48 hours, 100 hours or whatever, depending on the device. We cap you at the 24 per person, just to level that playing field for everybody.
To make it,
Yeah.
worth playing. Is this going to be a game that's worth playing for everybody?
Right. We've got leaderboards on there now. We've been talking about how we've been developing so much, and you're saying, yeah, this has been it was a little bit complicated. And a project that I have been trying to do for a while has been a video tutorial, how to do this, what steps to do visually, audibly, to work with all of our different kinds of learners and the different modalities. And it's like, okay, cool. Let's just make it as simple as possible. Problem is every time I get one of those videos almost ready, we've updated. We're like, hey, now we've got this. And so like all of my screenshot footage of the website is now outdated. And so so we're growing, and we're constantly growing for sure. And definitely need more funding to keep growing and expanding this further and further. What was it that you said? I was actually talking about something specific and then started tangenting. I'm so sorry.
No, it's all good. Well, I think we're talking about like equitable opportunity. And I think that's really core to our principles, which is we don't want to set this situation up where somebody with a supercomputer can just like suck up all the value and then like claim all the prizes. So it's about like making sure it's this foundation of equal opportunity. So that way, even if you're not even donating computing power, that's totally fine. No worries. You got plenty of other ways to help the world. You can, make sure you're exercising and taking care of yourself. Make sure you're volunteering at your local, nonprofit organization. So
the latest volunteering is you guys have gotten into the blood drive.
Correct. Exactly. And I think this is where the opportunity is, where we can create these themes and say, hey, you know what? February, we're going to do a blood drive, like for the entire ley line community. And so we get to show the Red Cross, like, boom, 1,000 people just donated blood, which is in an absolute crisis right now. It's like record shortages. So we can kind of pick specific activities and causes and promote the heck out of it and build this community and sense of competition and collaboration and have these giant impacts with just a little bit of effort on your individual side. So it's about bringing people together. And that's the whole idea of ley lines. It's like ley lines just kind of connect all these different sources of energy and potential. And so you as an individual may not have like gigantic impact in the world, but multiply that by 2.7 billion gamers and you can move mountains. Like this can really happen. And so the way to do that is just like incentivize the crap out of it. It's like make it easy, make it fun, and then, get people money. And, hopefully that helps to alleviate this economic crisis that we're all in right now. We've got 180 million people now hit by some form of scarcity and poverty based off the OECD projections. And it's going to grow. Like our economy is not like getting better. It's getting more fragile right now. So we've got to come up with these new systems and platforms that can help to alleviate the suffering.
I saw Annette sit up when you said something there. Did Annette, did you have something you wanted to chime in on?
I don't play video. Yeah, I don't play video games like at all. When you started talking about gaming and stuff, I just sort of lost. But then I heard the word volunteer. Yeah. But then I heard the word volunteering. Okay, so that's what piqued my interest. I was like, wait, what are they talking about now? So
Absolutely.
that's what brought me back in, because I just started volunteering at the like our local food bank. It's called Aravaca Human Resources, and they deliver Meals on Wheels to the local residents. And well, it's not the Meals on Wheels program. They have their own program like that. And so I just started volunteering in the kitchen, and my husband is a paid employee for them, and he delivers the lunches to all these homebound people and stuff. So anyway,
well,
all I heard was volunteering, and then I was like, I volunteer.
Yes, and you'd actually talk, because you should be earning ley line points for that, because it's a fantastic thing. And so here's the beauty, is that we have these conversations with these nonprofits, and they're like, this is freaking awesome. We don't have a tech platform to track all this stuff. So now your ley line profile starts to turn into this digital resume of like your altruism. And that doesn't exist today. There is no platform where you say, I did all this amazing stuff, like I'm a hero, and then we're going to make it super fun and interesting and compete and make it a social identity. So that's kind of,
I might be using a copyrighted term right now, but I think of it as kind of like karma credits I hope that isn't already a thing, but basically, it's like I've always thought that people really good people, right, should be recognized for their goodness in some way. And this is one of those things where all of the things that you said before are things that you can do just because you just want to do it. You just sleep every night because you want to be healthy. And you don't receive any rewards typically day to day in terms of a gamified system. And so like Boeing, anybody could sign up to do that and not get any Leyline credits. But how about you get some Leyline credits and then you eventually get a gift card?
Yeah,
exactly.
That's even better.
Exactly. And it's just complementary. It's not like we're trying to replace anything. We're just stacking on more and more value to these things. And here's like the I guess the challenge you're trying to overcome is that a very small amount of people in a population can be altruistic. Because the higher the scarcity, people just need to like put food on the table and they can't like spend time thinking about helping others. So what we want to do is make sure that we can try to address that gap. But then that means that, say maybe the top 20% of the population can do philanthropic activities. Even them, they're not incentivized to do it. So really, we're talking about like 1 or 2% of like, our global population that can be altruistic. What we want to do is take that remaining 18% and use greed as a way to say, oh, you know what, I can earn money. I might as well do good stuff, or, hey, I'm a gamer and I like, having fun and collecting these things. I might as well do good stuff to earn that. So it's like not trying to convince people to do good things. It's trying to leverage all the other interests that they have. And the end result is doing good things. So that's the secret sauce, is like using economics and gamification to, not necessarily convince people to be more ethical and more giving. It's just like incentivize them to produce that result. So it's a little bit of a game we're playing there. I hope that's understandable.
And that
I wanted to say that there's a weight loss program where they pay you to, like, for your workout, you get paid a certain amount for working out and for how much weight you lose and so on and so forth. And you get paid for it.
Absolutely.
So that was kind of cool.
Yes.
And do they have the leaderboard or anything like that? Like there's the, the friendly competition with other
I
folks.
haven't signed up for it.
Okay. I just wondered if you knew, because
there might be.
Even just that alone is exciting incentive, because when you see your peers, people that even if you're not like tight friends, but you're like, oh, I know that person, we've interacted, we've commented on each other's posts on Facebook or Discord or who knows what. Oh my gosh, they're kicking my butt. Like they've put in so many computing hours and they have this many Leyline points. Oh, I better step on it, And so it does add that level. Now, yeah, we are certainly marketing toward gamers because we're making a game of it. However, we don't want to shut off folks who go, I'm not a gamer, I don't play video games. Plenty of folks in my circle are in that boat, but it's like, well, okay, but it still has that gamification factor that could come with a board game, a sports game. It's gaming is in our nature. It's just part of humanity. We love to play games. It goes back to, thousands of years BC, we find proto versions of chess or checkers and stuff. It's like, clearly we love playing games. It's a part of us. And so there is that element of competition, and hopefully we're also leveraging positive peer pressure, positive peer competition as well, to kind of go, oh, I can't let them have the bragging right over me. I am going to beat them. And what are we going to have them beat them at? Doing something good for humanity, something good for the environment, something good for the healthcare system. You name it. It's just, we're trying to like incentivize more and more of that.
Yeah. And this is the expertise that's been developed in the gaming world, because we've got like monstrous amounts of data and understand what engages people. And so when you intrinsic motivators, or things like a sense of achievement and purpose, a sense of discovery and exploration, social cohesion and reputation, competition and collaboration, there's all these like techniques that games have optimized over years and years and years. And it's been optimized to the point that it can be quite addictive. And that's what I saw, is like, oh my gosh, like gaming is like just growing. I think, there's like average 2 to 4 hours a day per person is spent playing games now. and it's going to increase over time. So when I saw it, I was like, okay, all right, we're creating all these products that are addicting people. And that's what technology is doing today, whether it's social media or games or Netflix or whatever, it's all addictive. So at least let's addict people to doing good. Like at least it's like a one way to start and bridge the gap between this virtual world we're all escaping into and the real world. Because we need these bridges back to reality to have empathy for the problems we need to solve. If we just spend our time like on Netflix all day, we don't care. And so we need some kind of incentive model to bring us out of, this digital world. Sorry, Annette, I interrupted.
You can run Boink in the background while you watch Netflix all day.
Well,
it's like the most passive way to support all these different scientists, different researchers trying to solve world problems. And you're just donating processing power to help speed up the calculations of just massive calculations, massive models and everything. And you could have that running in the other room while you're watching Netflix all day. I mean, that's what's so cool about it.
Well, that's what I love about what Jeremy just said was the fact that he hopped out of an industry where he was, doing really well for himself. But he felt that the work that he was doing, he was learning a lot, but not leading him towards positive results necessarily in human lives the way that he wanted to. And so he's applying those same principles that, that he learned from the gaming industry towards incentivizing good and doing good. Now, defining good, of course, is something that's going to be tricky. But like, for example, Annette said she doesn't play games, but yet you are playing the game of Facebook, for example, because every time we're on Facebook, the machine is collecting information from us, and it's manipulating our behavior. While we're almost like kind of co-evolving with these algorithm systems that we get on Google, we watch things that don't look like games, but they're gaming us. The corporations are gaming us, so. It's good for us.
That's why I saw the weight loss app.
Yeah.
That's why I saw that weight loss ad.
It was offered to us. Huh?
They know.
They know us.
And that's the social imperative we all have, which is we need to kill that business model. So essentially social media and like a lot of these platforms are, offering their product for free. They harvest and mine all your data. They send it to thousands of vendors and then they blast you with ads. What a horrible situation we're all in. And, obviously the most engaging, parts of social media is really stuff that pisses us off and enrages us. So it's just like constantly optimizing for that. And the reason why they're doing that is because the longer you optimize and have someone engaged, the more you can monetize off of them. Mm-hmm. So the key is, how do you have a business model that doesn't require you to addict people to your product? And that's where we, for us, we are never going to sell user data. In fact, we're going to take the absolute minimal requirement, which is just we need the email address so we can verify you're a real person, and then just toss out the rest because there's no need for it. We don't need to try and optimize who you are and sell an advertiser a targeted, buy. So I think, we're part of this larger movement in the blockchain and decentralized space to build more equitable and pro-human business models. And that's why crypto and the blockchain space starts to create these kind of creator opportunities. So now it's just we just got to build the community to do that and then shift the economics in this direction. So we'll see this hopefully we'll see a transition away from these traditional social media platforms that are literally monetizing off of you into a much more decentralized and secure set of platforms. So hopefully this movement happens fast enough before society kind of explodes.
Now I wanted to let just straight out let you guys know I've never had a crypto wallet and never owned any cryptocurrency, but now this is giving me a chance to get in a very very gentle way because it's being offered to me for free. I'm not having to invest any of my own money. So what do I now the next thing I'm going to have to do is pick. I'm going to have to pick between Bitcoin and Ethereum is a choice I can make. Right.
Yes.
Want to tell me a little bit about, what those two choices are and what I would be choosing?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so the world of crypto is actually quite complex. So those Bitcoin and Ethereum are two of the major leads in that ecosystem. So they've got the most mass adoption. Bitcoin was the original. So everything, the entire market really is pinned against Bitcoin. So those are two that we kind of recommend as your safest currencies to hold. But frankly, there's about like more than 100 to 200 different types of cryptocurrencies, so it's a very risky game going outside of that those core currencies. And it's a very volatile space as well, so you don't know what's going to go up and go down. But Bitcoin as like the sole source of value, it's mainstream, and you just saw Tesla is buying 1.5 how much billion? Like how much money are they buying? It's like a crazy amount.
I don't know, but it's sure pushed the value up quite a bit.
Yeah, I think it's 1.5 billion.
Faye, I'm super new at it. I think I'm probably a step or two ahead, but not miles by far, right? And so I was talking to a lot of folks on the Stereo app, just opening up a conversation about cryptocurrency. Like, what the heck is this? And one guy tried to explain it in a way that, we're in a digital age. This is digital currency, right? I mean, paper money, it's paper. It's not, it's what is it, right? It's the same, it's kind of the same thing. We go, well, I can't touch it. Yeah, it's and so to think of Bitcoin as digital gold and Ethereum as digital silver, right? They're two precious metals. They're the most kind of stable. They have that value. As long as we all agree they have value, they're going to have value, and so.
Well, the one thing I noticed about the Bitcoin, even more than Tesla, because I try not to follow Elon, just too much drama over that way. But what I noticed is that that PayPal went Bitcoin, and so
PayPal,
now you can actually use your PayPal account as a wallet as well.
That's correct.
So that's I think that makes it absolutely mainstream in the United States. I don't know about. I think it was early adoption in Asia. So.
Yeah. And, actually what's interesting is that most of the acceleration will be coming from developed nations because, you have to think about that use case where we're going to have maybe 2.7 billion say about 2 billion people joining the internet economy over the next few years or so because of like satellite internet and access to phones, etc. And you got to think about that use case. Like if you're a kid in a village in India, are you going to walk like 50 miles to, your local town center, find a bank, fill out paperwork, give an ID that you don't even have, or you're going to open up your smartphone and click 5 buttons and now be able to transact in the entire global digital economy. So they are actually leapfrogging the traditional banking system and then becoming like able to hold a business and then transact and maybe create some amazing content and, have somebody across the planet to purchase their piece of art. So this opens up this gigantic space of people now, just joining this internet economy. So if you think about like, if you're a creator and all of a sudden like 2 more billion people just appear like into the market space, like you're going to have a lot of opportunity. So that's where the institutional investors in the Western nations are realizing this movement is happening, that Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are just a superior form of transacting. Because here's like an example. If you go to your bank and you try to do a wire transfer, how much time do you have to wait for it to process? Because it's going through all these intermediaries. Or imagine doing a global remittance over to the Philippines to my family, and I'm going to take like a 30% haircut over the transactions. Like, what am I doing? I'll just send you a Bitcoin. It's just me to you, done with a tiny fee, and like that's it. If you're investing in, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, that's where it leads into the article where that and the stuff that I wanted to talk about with you directly today. I've been reading this article about the new thermodynamics theory of the origin of life. And the reason I brought that up is because I'm going to have Annette put the link up for our friends who are listening or watching at home. But the reason I brought this up is because I think one of the major issues that I have with Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies is the energy consumption issue. And we've been talking about it a little bit in the Discord because we have actually a crypto chat specifically about, cryptocurrencies because it's been a hot topic for people using this community. So I think that's where when you talk about traditional banking versus crypto banking, it seems to me that the more people are using crypto, the more updating it would have to do, because you say it's direct from one person to another, but when in fact everybody in the entire network gets the update. Isn't that how that crypto works?
That's correct. So there's the overall blockchain, which records all of the transaction histories. And so, yeah, there is a massive amount of energy going into maintaining that, which is kind of distributed across the entire globe. And the thing about there's a number of different points of comparison. And one of them is, okay, how much energy and carbon is the existing banking and financial industry and the insurance industry and on securities industry, like how much is being consumed there relative to what a new currency is like? And obviously they're going to coexist for a long period of time, but we'll see a decline of those, centralized institutions and a more decentralized method. So, that's certainly a challenge in the short term because we are going to see exponential increase in the use of Bitcoin. And, I think as we were kind of discussing, some of my thoughts in terms of how do we address that include, one, shifting us to sustainable and renewable energy. So that way, all the different server farms are operating off of solar and wind and geothermal. And so moving the grid toward, like electrifying the grid is really one of the most important things we have to do. So then we can kind of focus on, okay, it's just like, let's just make sure we're, harvesting enough energy from the sun to power all these servers. There are also updated protocols which will reduce the amount of transaction crunching needed. So some of the newer cryptocurrencies like, VeChain or Cardano are these like third generation cryptos, which function much better and much more efficiently than Bitcoin. So what'll happen there is that movement to those third generation technologies will actually be where most of the transactions happen, and Bitcoin becomes a store of value, where it's like you're just like keeping a bar of gold in your closet or something like that. And it's just a digitized bar of gold sitting there. So that's the kind of the thought that I had was, as we see an exponential rise in computing power, we need to get the same exponential transition into renewable energy. But then it comes into like, entropy and, heat generation, which I'd love to talk about as well. this is where shit gets kind of crazy.
So, I mean, one of the interesting things is I wonder if I could just share the article and be reading it at the same time as we're actually doing this. Let me see if I can get it on. Let's take a look at this. All right, let's see if Annette can bring that up. This is the first article I'm going to put up. And it says, whoops, let's get rid of that. Okay. So here's the, Bitcoin sustainability problem. So renewable energy is insufficient for addressing the problem because, here's some of the data. The research cites estimates where Bitcoin consumed anywhere from 40 terawatt hours to 62.3 terawatt hours throughout 2018. And this is on par with the energy consumption of countries like Hungary or Switzerland. Okay, so just Bitcoin alone. and then if you take a look at, once Bitcoin goes, even becomes more popular as it is happening right now, I think that what we're going to need is some type of sharding. But I'm not familiar with sharding, but I think the idea is instead of having it update to everybody who's on Bitcoin at the same time, to separate Bitcoin users into groups. And each of those groups would be considered a shard, and it would only update amongst that group. And then the groups, I don't know, somehow communicate.
Yeah. And actually, I think that's what Ethereum is implementing now as part of their 2.0 protocol. And well, if we were to just zoom out, we could kind of calculate the argument for any particular industry. So like, let's say we took the carbon footprint and energy consumption of like the meat industry. And, the question there is, okay, now how do we address and like reduce those to zero? We need to innovate down to zero. So if we were to say, let's like make the, meat industry really sustainable. Okay, we got to electrify cars and trucks. We have to figure out how to do like methane capture or like carbon sequestration. So, like looking at these numbers is one piece of it, but then what's the path forward? Because at the end of the day, we have to, shift over to renewables. Like that is like an absolute must have at this point. So like we got to go further than that and start going carbon negative and start to capture back all the shit that's in the atmosphere. So I definitely get where this article is coming from, which is taking a snapshot of where we are today in a general usage. But the ultimate solution is like, we should just not be using dirty power. Like once we solve that, then any industry starts to become greener. So, I kind of look at it from that time scale of like maybe a decade or two as we kind of shift over to renewables. And the question is like, again, like, are we too late to do that? Which some may argue is already the case because we're seeing us like go over the tipping point when it comes to, permafrost melting, the, polar ice caps melting. Like it's pretty bad. So anyway, that's kind of my perspective. I don't know, like, what you think about that. I could be wrong for sure, but I just kind of see it at that scale.
I do want to talk about that a little bit more, but I'm also interested in what's the difference between this proof of work and proof of stake. I think you tried to explain that to me early at some point. I think you could maybe explain that too. How are those different?
Yeah, I'm not a super expert on this one, but if I were to kind of dumb it down to my understanding, so proof of work is really you're trying to crunch these gigantic equations and formulas. So all you're doing, like most of these Bitcoin machines, are just like doing math over and over and over again. Proof of stake shifts that to say, okay, instead of trying to calculate these like, super hard, difficult problems, math problems, let's actually just base it off of the amount of cryptocurrency you can stake onto the platform. So say I have like 10 Ethereum. I just have the 10 Ethereum, put it in my wallet, and it sits there. And it accrues value over time, but it also validates the data that's in the network. So it becomes way more efficient because now all the machines are only just crunching to validate that people have staked their currency. So, it's a pretty dramatic optimization. I don't know the exact numbers, but it's a pretty significant decrease in the consumption. And there's something beautiful about that because when you're staking your coins, you're actually earning a passive interest on it. So it's kind of like the analogy of if you're in a bank account and you put it into a savings account, like what kind of interest rates do you get on it? Like maybe 0.7 or some bullshit like that. And every time the bank is like going like buying stocks and like gambling with your money and making like 20%. So instead, in the crypto world, instead of putting it in a bank account, you put it in your crypto wallet and you stake it, and then you start getting a return like 5 to 7% on, and so it becomes a passive income. So it helps to reduce the footprint, the carbon footprint and energy usage. It also creates this passive income source for anybody that's, putting up their money into the ecosystem. So hope that helps explain it.
So,
like, and I, might have some flaws in my understanding, but it's the best I can interpret so far.
That's wonderful that you're able to, explain it to us a little bit more because I personally don't understand it very well. I'm looking at, I was really interested in this article when it came out, and it was a while back. And I was surprised after I read it that it wasn't talked about more. Okay. And so I've been waiting to find somebody who would talk about it with me. And thank you so much for offering to do that today. So basically, this article hypothesizes, why does life exist? And I come from this perspective because I was trained as a biologist. And so it's always seemed to us that that biology was a special case of things becoming more and more organized over time, right?
Yeah.
And becoming more complex rather than, as we know, thermodynamics says, every time you do a little work, there's a little heat wasted. And there's also a little more entropy increased, and which just means disorder. So every time there's work, and over time, entropy just keeps increasing. And so there's just more and more disorganization. But life seems to be doing something the exact opposite. Right. So we always felt, well, biology must be very, very special. There's something different about us. But this new thermodynamics theory basically says that it actually follows of the fundamental thermodynamic processes, because what's happening is the Earth is sitting in a very unique place where the sun is shining on us and providing all of this energy into our system, into a small local system. And our local system has a heat bath, right? We have an atmosphere that keeps the heat in. We have, water that keeps the heat in. And so we absorb the heat from the sun. We absorb the energy from the sun. But at some point, right, all of this extra energy that is being beamed into us is going to create life, because life is actually a way of organizing that energy so that we don't just explode. I think that's what it's saying.
Yeah, that's
what
good.
you
You
got
just
from
helped me understand this article more. I did read it today when Jeremy's like, "Hey, this is what we're going to talk about." I'm like, "I'm not a physicist or a biologist. I teach media." So,
But you're a story guy, and this is a
so
fascinating story.
it does and you helped me kind of, I feel like, make the analogy almost that it's like, okay, so you're pumping so much energy onto the earth that the entropy of the release of that energy, one manifestation of that is life. Is that kind of, like that? It's not necessarily just life as in this ordered of reverse entropy, but it's more like, well, it's coming here and it's kind of like, well, this is this snowball toward entropy creating life, something like that. It was like, I mean, it's definitely mind blowing. That's for sure. So,
well, the thing is, I mean, it's only a theory. So it's, but I think that it's one of those things where when you hear something that's just seems to be awfully true and awfully simple once you think about it, right? It's like, I feel like that's when everything changes. Like evolution, when evolutionary theory came, everything changed. The entire concept of where man's place was in the world and how we got here changed. And what is our purpose in life? And so this, I feel like it's like, oh, is my new purpose as a living being to basically organize this energy that's coming to us from the sun, which is of great abundance, right? Because the entire precursor to life is this great abundance of energy that's being pumped into us. So we actually have a problem of abundance and not scarcity.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what Jeremy was alluding to. It's just it's insanity that we still have kids going to bed hungry around the world, and we just have massive amounts of abundance. Anybody who's ridden on a cruise ship knows, like, they dump out waste, just leftovers, just like, by the ton. I mean, it's like, holy cow. It's just amazing that there is so much abundance. It's just like, we need to better distribute it, And so, interesting.
I'm sorry I left it to the very end, and then Jeremy just hopped back in. We were talking about, we were trying to get to the part where, it dawned on me that, what this was saying to me was that all of life could only develop under the conditions of supreme abundance. Right? We have an abundance of energy coming from the sun, and that's the only way that it creates the conditions for life to exist. And so, so for us to have lived most of our evolutionary history in the mindset of scarcity, like, are we going to have enough food? Are we going to have enough shelter? It really doesn't make sense, because we exist here on Earth because there's such a huge abundance,
and that
we don't even know what to do with it.
That scarcity mentality is what has destroyed humanity, right? It's what not that we've been destroyed, but I mean, it's just, that is the mentality that's created tribalism and nationalism and just the strife, the fighting, the wars, everything. It's like, well, there's only so much resource. I'm going to kill you so I can have yours and make sure that I've got enough. And it's like, the more we dig into that mentality, just the more screwed up things get. It has not made things better at all. And so switching to a mindset of abundance, I love this. I absolutely love this. It's because it's like, hey, here's some scientific principles about this massive amount of abundance that created you and me. So why don't we work together, share together, build more together, versus scarcity mentality, like, yeah, this is mine, you stay away or I'll shoot you.
And most of it just comes down to system design. Sorry guys, I had to switch my phone. My internet died for whatever reason. But you're absolutely right. There's just so much available for us to, be fully sustainable. I think we just designed our systems really poorly. And not to say that it's all broken. We just need an OS upgrade. It's like, our governments are running on like Windows 95. we need like just some modern, systems in place where it can adapt and just leverage all these abundant resources we have in the right direction. I think that's where we've kind of, stumbled, and it's basically our generation's moment to step up and say, okay, this is not working. Let's find a new pathway and get there, because you're right. It's absolutely the case. And to come back to just that theory, Faye, I think it's a beautiful theory, and it does kind of like, align very well with, it's like physics, then it's chemistry, then it's biology, then it's like sociology, and like here we are.
Well, that's the thing. I was talking to Cody earlier because you had fallen out of the chat, but the idea of these self-replicating structures, right? Being better at dissipating energy and being better at capturing energy and doing something with it, because the problem is there's too much. We could just keep heating up until we just get super hot and go crazy, or we can capture that energy and then get it buried underground as oil to be brought up again in future generations. I mean, it's crazy how much what life is doing on Earth, and if I'm part of that, right? Then the question now is, we have this global warming that's happening that is threatening to, I don't know if it's going to threaten human beings as the living organisms that we are, because we are not designed to live in an environment that's very extreme. We have to stay within these, very narrow bands. And so the concern that I have now is that, we have all this energy. I'm not concerned about the use of it, other than the fact that every time you do use it, there is that waste, there is that entropy, there is a greenhouse effect that's happening now. And we're heating up this water bath that we live in,
Agreed. Actually, you know what? I think we were kind of discussing it before, is like, we need this like full frontal assault on any way we can capture, emissions effectively, and also to kind of restore the ecosystem in place that keeps us in this nice balance. And so like one good example of that is like the polar ice caps are actually so critical, because that landmass reflects back sunlight into space. So it kind of, right now it's like more and more energy is getting trapped here. So one possibility is we should just have space mirrors. So, Elon's like sending a bunch of satellites up there. You can just have space mirrors positioned right over the poles to reflect back the sunlight and energy and let us re-ice the polar ice caps again. And, the problem again is like, not only are ice caps reflecting energy back into space, they're also on top of land. So when it melts, it's actually making sea levels rise, which then absorbs more heat. So I think like that's only one of thousands of activities that humanity can do to help with reducing the amount of heat being captured, reducing the amount of emissions that are going out into the atmosphere. And I think there isn't like one silver bullet. It's got to be, a number of innovations, a number of economic policies that shift away from, dirty energy into cleaner energy. So it's like, it's all sectors and all hands on deck. And that's the hard part, is helping people realize that there is this crisis incoming, because it's just hard to build an emotional attachment when it's so big and so far away. And if everyone's in scarcity, like they don't even care about that, because like they have to get their food on the table, which is like a totally reasonable reaction to climate change. So,
and I think, I know that Cody is going to need to take off soon, so I wanted to give him a chance. Do you want to stay for a few more minutes, Jeremy, or do you want to maybe close up now?
I also have a hard stop at 3:30, so
okay. Well, it's very nice to have had both of you here, and thank you for offering to talk to me about something that I care about deeply.
Yeah. And I wish we could have talked more. As soon as we open that can of worms, it's like, this is exciting. This is fun to dig into, really.
Well, I encourage everybody to take some time with the idea that life originated in order to dissipate all of this heat that we're getting and energy that's coming from the sun, and how abundant that is. I mean, there's no way for us to use that all up. The main problem being, if we do use it, where would they go? We would just burn ourselves up. So how can we become responsible, altruistic organisms that maintain our species on this beautiful planet of ours? Thank you very much for joining.
Absolutely. We do that with love.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and maybe it will go forward with you as you think about, how you're going to design the good that you want to bring about in the world. So
we can do it. We can all do it together. That's the plan. So, all right. Okay. Well, thank you guys so much. This is a pleasure. We'll do it again.
Goodbye.
Bye,
All
y'all.
right.
Thank you for
Bye,
joining us.
everybody. Peace.
Okay, and